just need much. Hello, everybody. I'm John Self, and welcome to Lunch and Learn. We are in a new studio, and we are learning the new ropes, as it were. And there may be some interesting events today. I'm trying very I'm trying very much to learn all of this as quickly as I possibly can. But anyway, we're delighted to have you with us today. I hope my right brain doesn't explode, the creative side. As I said, we're using a new streaming service in a new studio. We're now with Restream of Austin. We had been with StreamYard before, and we're now kind of being loyal to our native Sun operation. So let's get started. Hi, everybody. As I said, I'm John Self, and welcome to Lunch and Learn. We're delighted to have you with us. This is our second episode since returning from a break in August, and we had one in September, so a little bit longer break than we anticipated. But we have an important video for you today, or important live stream for you today. And it really focuses on how to manage your job search and most importantly, how to manage the potential gap on your resume. And that's something that a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to, but today we want to really zero in on that. So thanks for joining us. And this again is Lunch and Learn. Today we're accelerating your job search and avoiding the glaring resume gap. So let's get started. If I can remember how to move this forward. So this is a different, different setup here. Okay. It operates a little bit differently than we've had before in the past. So we'll see what we can do here to get things moving. Thanks for bearing with me. Here we go. Let me tell you a little bit about myself if you've not dealt with me before. I'm John Self. I had 27 years of executive experience in recruiting. I've interviewed more than 9,000 executives. I've worked in 40 states, 6 countries, and in 4 different continents. So I've really been very blessed to have a really broad range of recruiting experiences. I started my career as a crime writer and investigative reporter at the Houston Post, became a PR director at Herman Hospital, and before you know it, I was the director of their Life Flight program to lead the implementation. It was the second program in the country. Within a year, I was the national marketing manager for the aircraft company, so you could assume we had some success. And then I put together the next 14 programs nationally. 13 of them are still operating today. So I've really been able to really have a great career, and I've enjoyed it immensely. I've navigated 4 career changes. I've taught the interviewing course for the American College of Healthcare Executives, which is a global association, and I did that for about 10 years. So let's move in now to our focus. The competition is extremely intense, and this is something that's here to stay. In the old days, you could pretty much in some industries find a good job. Might take you 3 to 6 months, only because of the process. And if you were an executive or a manager, it took a little bit longer. But 3 to 6 months was the average. Now, today, the competition is pretty intense, and this is here to stay. And we're going to talk about that today. The strategic layoffs are going to continue to exacerbate the executive job market, including time to hire. As I said earlier, it used to take 3 to 6 months. I'm sorry to tell you now, that's now 8 to 14 months. So having a different mindset for your job search, it's absolutely critical. And that comes from not only preparing yourself, but also from understanding that you're going to get a lot of rejection. It's going to take a lot longer. There's a lot more work involved now because, computers are involved. And because it takes longer, you have to consider this one important point. Everybody to this extent is still used to saying, okay, you left this job, 6 months later, you had another job. Yes, but what happens if it's 14 months later? Those are questions you really don't want to ask. And so today we're going to focus on some strategies to get you to pay attention, pay attention to that issue so that it doesn't become a factor. So, look, one of the things you have to do is eliminate the resistance. You have to adapt to the new normal. The new normal is 6 to 8 to 14 months in length. And if you don't have a network, a really established network, you're going to be dealing with applicant tracking systems, not recruiters. And you can't let your ego derail you. A lot of people who haven't been in the job market for a while, they get into the market, they think they understand what they're going to do, and they're determined to do it the way they've always done it. Don't let that derail you. That's a pretty significant barrier for a lot of people to get over. Ego is important. Ego is really, really important. It's not a bad thing. But an ego that helps you build up resistance to change, that is dangerous, especially when you're looking for a job today. So let's go to the before and after. I always tell my clients, if you're looking for great illustrations of your value, give a before and after. Well, this is not necessarily a positive before and after, but let's go through it. Starting in the late 1990s, ATS was not widely used. Mainly the big corporations, the AT&Ts, the big, large, giant multinationals used ATS they started using it to manage the flow of applications. And it used to have big internal technical staffs or clerical staffs to go through and sort all the resumes that came in every day. Now, ATS is used at 98% of all the companies in the U.S. 98%. That doesn't mean all of those companies have their own applicant tracking systems. iHire, Indeed, ZipRecruiter all have essentially the same technology, and companies basically outsource some of their recruiting and some of that sorting to those platforms. In the past, generic resumes worked. You could go to a resume writer and have that resume writer use their research and their experience and put together a really sexy, nice looking resume. And you could then use it over and over and over again. That's because human beings were reading the resumes, and that worked. But today, generic resumes are axed 99% of the time. So if you went to a resume writer and the resume writer really focused on having a really slick looking format or whatever else, color and all that, that's bad. Why? Because that all requires formatting code, and that formatting code can kick you out of the ATS screening system. 99% of the generic resumes are axed today because of formatting issues and because you didn't customize your resume to where the keywords and phrases, not just the industry. That's what a lot of resume writers say. Well, we've optimized it for the industry. Great. But you didn't optimize it for the specific job. And that is now very, very important. So that's why a lot of resumes get kicked out. And when you're kicked out, you never know. And you certainly don't know why. Back in the day, in the 90s, and even in through the mid 2000s, human recruiters were making initial choices of who advanced in the search. In a search firm, that's still the case. We got really good at spending about 20 seconds with a resume to know whether that individual was in the ballpark of a job we were leading a search for. Today, in the search firms, which only handle about 30 to 35% of all the searches, in search firms, there's still a lot of manual review. But in internal health systems, large corporations, ATS decides who advances. That means the first interview is conducted by a computer. Odds for success in the old days were something like 30 to 1. Today, if you're applying online, it's 150 to 1 for executive positions, management positions, and it can go up from there. And I'm not sure how to move this around. Obviously, I just did something wrong. And so I'm going to hopefully, move this back. Well, now I know. As I said, this is the first time in this studio. The average time to hire back then was 3 to 6 months. Today, it is 8 to 14 months. And that's because there's a lot of people applying and companies can be more selective. Now, the reason for that, and the reason they want to be more selective, if you look at the numbers for recruiting, they're terrible. 40% of all the people that are hired from outside an organization are gone within 18 to 24 months. That's a terrible record. That's the search industry's dirty little secret. Why does that happen? Because it's a transaction, and because a lot of the recruiters, they are there to complete a transaction. That's what they're expected to deliver. We always promised results. And I know people said, why? You can't do that. Well, yes, you can if you do a good job screening the person, if you do a good job understanding what the client needs and wants. But now, again, the time now is 8 to 14 months. And that is not, I don't see that really changing over the next 24 to 36 months. Well, and now we have a formatting issue that anyway, the realities of today's job market. So I'll interpret you for, we went right to the studio with the Microsoft PowerPoint, and it doesn't fit very well. I should have converted them to PDF. So now you know some backstory, but let's don't let that distract us. Increased competition for the available jobs. That is the new reality. As I said, there are thousands and thousands of people, executives and managers every day across all business sectors. There's 11 business sectors. There's people looking for jobs, more people looking than there are available jobs. And this began to happen in 2012 with a phenomenon called job extension. I'm going to give you an example here. Hospitals used to have a CEO in every facility. Okay. And if it was part of a system, they still had a CEO in every facility. Now you're finding hospitals will have, maybe a cluster of 3 or 4 hospitals around a little bit larger facility. They'll name the CEO of the larger facility as the quote market president, and then they'll replace the CEOs in each hospital with a chief administrative officer that makes less money. Why is that happening? Why don't the CEO stay in the chief administrative officer role, and so they won't have to do a job search? Because that's a step back in their career. It's a step back in income. Very few people do that. And so it's really important now to see that. So they're extending the CEO's reach, not just one hospital, but 4 to 5 or 6 hospitals. I have a friend that was up in Minnesota, and they told him that he was going to have to be the CEO of two hospitals, and they were 75 miles apart. Well, guess what happens in Minnesota in the winter? Bad weather, a lot of snow, blizzards, that sort of thing. He decided not to stay. He decided he did not want to go back and forth between the two hospitals. He did not feel that he could do the job that needed to be done. So he took early retirement. But again, it's so important that you really understand why this is happening. During the pandemic, a lot of companies, because everybody went home, got put a lot of their executives on furlough. When the pandemic began to lift and people started coming back to work, a lot of them decided to work from home. Companies looked around and said, "Hey, we don't need all these executives and managers we used to have." So the furlough became a layoff. That's one reason that you have thousands of more executives now than you do positions. Also, companies are eliminating jobs because they realize they can run their business just as effectively with fewer executive leaders. Now, it was really important, because your first interview now is with a computer, a bot, that you really understand how to get in the side door. If you're going through the portal, the organization's own application portal, you're in a big stream, and that makes the odds really, really bad. Without a network, you're going to have to use that online application. And I think it's really important that you build a network. You have to have a daily routine. A lot of people were able to get jobs in the past because recruiters called them, and so they'd go play golf and then talk to the recruiter and go play golf and talk to the recruiter. Without a daily routine, your job search is going to be prolonged. I don't care if you have a big network or not. It's taking longer. Employers are more selective, so you can't afford not to have a daily routine in looking for your next position. The one thing you also have to understand, some people have never really had to really search hard for a job. Well, under this market, I'm seeing some really good, talented people just deal with rejection more than they ever have in their careers. And it is a real downer, believe me. So understand, rejection is a constant companion. Even with a referral, you may be out, it may take you 18 to 14 months. Now, let's talk about the referral issue. If you're looking for a job and you're applying online, it's going to be 150 to 200 to 1. I have a daughter who is with a major global corporation. She posted a position for a communications director, and she had 200 applications within the first hour. 200 applications within the first hour. So, if she had people also calling her, giving her leads on people that she should talk to, that would be really well. So when you're just applying and you're not known, 150 to 200 to 1. So that's kind of odds today. If you are recruited by an external recruiter, you're probably looking at 32 to 1. Because the recruiters are probably going to look at 50 to 75 or 100 resumes to get down to a 10 or 12. They can fully screen or deeply screen and refer 5 or 6 to the client. Again, even with the referral sources, it's going to take a long time. And even if you have a network, the best odds you're going to get are 16 to 1. And that's really not very good. Now, when you get started, you've been laid off, or perhaps maybe you've been fired with a conflict with the board or a conflict with a politician in healthcare or city management or a lot of other positions, government, that happens. So whatever reason it is, first of all, being fired, Bum Phillips, the late great Houston Oilers coach, told Johnny Carson one night on national television, he said, Johnny, there's two kinds of NFL coaches, them that's been fired and them that's going to be. Well, there are a lot of industries out there today where that is really common. School superintendents, city managers, hospital administrators. I mean, the list is surprisingly large. Okay. So you have to have a search plan. And one of the elements of your search plan needs to be when you're going to shift gears, a waypoint of a decision, whether you're going to say, okay, it's going to take me a lot longer. I don't want to be out of work too long. So you may take some interim assignments or do some consulting or even consider a career change. Now, that's probably that one end of the extreme, but those are all things. And I know people who say, no, I don't want to do consulting or an interim because if I do an interim, I'll get tied up. And then if I get a job, I won't be able to take the job. Yes, you can. That's just a lame excuse. You don't really want to walk out on a consulting engagement, but if it's your long-term success, you can do it. It has been done. You won't be the first, you won't be the last. Okay? Now, most consulting engagements, interims, you wouldn't want to take one that would take maybe 2 years, unless that's you just want to try it. You want to find a job for 2 years and plug a hole in your resume. And I know somebody who started doing that after a disaster employment situation at a regional hospital where the not-for-profit recruiting company did not tell the truth about the financial position of the hospital. The first week he's there, he's told by the then CEO, who left very soon after, that we may not make payroll this week because we don't have enough cash. And the COO that had just been recruited didn't know anything about that. He went on to become one of the premier turnarounds in healthcare. He's finishing a big job now on the East Coast. He's been there 18 months. He spends weekends in New York. He travels home on alternate weekends. They fly his wife up on alternate weekends if he wants to come bring his wife to not go home. So he's really enjoyed it. He's worked in small hospitals in Nebraska, big academic facilities on the East Coast, and he started doing it to plug his resume. And he decided, I enjoyed this when I was turning the hospital around in Texas. I think I'll keep doing this. He said the most I've ever had without having an assignment, it was, maybe 6 or 8 weeks. And he said, I really didn't push it during that period of time. I wanted to take some time off. So those are ways to fill a gap. And there may be a way to find a new career forward. And some people are even looking at career changes. Now, one of the reasons we talk about networking a lot is that 60 to 70% of the best jobs are not posted. So you have to build your career network. You have to really select people that are aligned with your vertical and maybe are aligned with your geographic or organizational preferences. One of the things you want to do in creating a career plan is to be disciplined. And so you say, okay, I've been laid off, but these are the areas of the country I would like to live in if I can't stay here. And sit down with a family and say, do you want to try to live in the Mountain West where we'd be closer to skiing, or do you want to live in the Northwest, or do we want to live in New England? There's a lot of options. And you then begin to identify targeted organizations that you'd like to work with. And then you begin building a network with then that vertical area and that geographic area of people that can help refer you if you are involved in if you want to make that change to that area, you need people who can refer you. So we call that Networking 3.0. We teach a course in that for our premier clients. And we've written about it. My new book on networking is scheduled to debut on Amazon pretty quickly. And so I'll let you know when that happens. We have a free downloadable networking book at johngself.com. Click the red ribbon on the right-hand side of the page, and that'll take you in. Now, when you're out there, as I said earlier, you need a threshold. And so you set a threshold for how long are you going to look before you start looking at options to fill the gap in your resume. Number 2 is don't apply for jobs that you can't possibly get, that you can't possibly qualify for. In the old days, everybody said, oh, well, something might work out. And I can't tell you how many times contingency recruiters, you say, look, I don't do that. Well, let's submit your name. Something might work out. Well, because computers are reading things today, the computer doesn't understand the concept of something might work out. And if you get mad because you don't think the recruiter or the computer has read your resume correctly, you can get really angry. But that's a waste of time. You're never going to win an argument with a computer. So when you pick jobs that you're going to apply for, you want to be sure that you are meeting at least 90% of the selection criteria. You got to be honest with yourself. If you start playing that, well, maybe something will work out game, let me tell you something. You're going to end up spending a lot more time than you really want to on your search. Be disciplined. Job search plan. Grieve the loss, then lose the embarrassment. Grieving is important. Not grieving, not going through, thinking about what happened and kind of working it through your system can really create some barriers for you to look for a new job emotionally. And you may trigger a lot more emotions than you want to. So grieve, then lose the embarrassment. Again, you're not the first person that's been laid off. You're not the first person that's been fired, and you won't be the last. So don't let that embarrassment make you, you know, cuddle up in a fetal position or retract into your home and not want anybody to know you've been fired. If nobody knows you're not looking for, if nobody knows that you're looking for a job, nobody can help you. Nobody can help you if it's a big secret. So lose the embarrassment. Also, budget for your severance. Look for available resources to fund your search. It's going to take longer. You don't want to try to go in and use up too much of your retirement plan. So budget your resources wisely. Identify high potential industry meetings. I try to say, look, it's expensive. It's going to cost 5 or 6 thousand. But if you're in healthcare and you're in a job, you're looking for a job at the time of the Congress, there are 5,000 people that will be there. But don't just go to a meeting and walk around and spend money at the bar. No, have a plan when you're going to a local networking issue or a national program. Know people that you'd like to connect with or introduce yourself to. Have some business cards created. Or there are now some computer programs where you just tap phones and can share contact information. But if you're going to one of these high potential industry meetings, go with a strategy and a plan and a set of goals. This is what I want to accomplish, and then evaluate your performance. It's also a smart thing to do is target weekly coffees. Vendors that you may have become friends with over time can be a great source of information on a confidential basis. When you're trying to meet with people, choose people who can help, not comfort. A lot of people will go to coffee with their friends because that's comfortable. But if those people are retired or they're not in a position to help you advance your search, you're wasting your time. And I don't mean to be, I'm not saying you close those people out, but I'm just saying your priority must be to connect with people who can help you advance your career. Virtual coffees became very popular during the pandemic, and they're still something you can do today. And you need to polish it up, package it up in terms of how you pitch it to someone you want to have coffee with. Okay, strategies for your job search. You've got to have a daily routine. You've got to spend 4 hours at the very minimum, to 6 hours, doing work that's going to lead you to find a new job, not just, dilly dallying, reading magazines about your industry or talking to people that are comfortable. No, you got to talk to people who can help you find a job. You've got to talk to people who know people who know people who will be willing to introduce you. You should spend 4 to 6 hours Monday through Thursday without fail. Now, on Friday afternoons are usually a very dead time, and people are wrapping up the week, and nobody really wants to commit to any meetings unless you can have a late afternoon coffee, and they can then use that as an excuse to get out of the building sooner and do it on the way home for them. So, but the Friday afternoon is a great time to go play golf with friends. That's kind of accepted, but you can't if you're spending every other day on the golf course, unless you're playing golf with CEOs or CHROs or people who can help you find your next job. You're not being productive, and it's going to take you a lot longer to find your next position. Now, you also want to use automation wherever possible. The recruiting process on the employer side is becoming very automated, and if you're frustrated with it today, you know, hang on, it's going to change. I have a great cartoon that I'm showing on the Friday's Funny Photos. It said, if you used to do this, then hang on, because it's going to change. You want to keep a job search journal, okay? Because that'll, highlight people you want to follow up with. You think, okay, I'm really good at this, I'll remember. No, you won't, because searching for a job is unlike the job you held, and consistency and follow up will make a difference. And because some of these people you've never really met, it's easy to forget or not, just not do the follow up. You got to keep a journal. Who did I talk to? What did we decide to do? Who do they know? Every time you talk to someone, is there anybody else you think I need to speak with that might be able to help me? I really would appreciate it. When you finish the call, it may be with somebody you don't really know, but always say, is there anything I can do for you today? This can be a great adventure. You're going to meet some great new friends. But if you're embarrassed and I don't like people calling me asking for help. And so you do transference. You say, well, if I don't like it, nobody else likes it. You're in trouble. You are in big, deep trouble. Okay. As I said earlier, you want to automate because, ACHE has a professional site. Every industry has their own job boards. that are part of the association directory or part of the association as a service. You want to do that on a regular basis. Set up alerts, set criteria for the jobs you want to pursue, and then let those people push those alerts out to you. Don't try to go remember, oh, hell, I got to go file something every day with, or go look the data board. I hadn't looked at ACH in 3 or 4 days. Well, if there's a job that meets your criteria, they'll push it out to you. So set alerts. Searching for a job is unlike your farmer job. And so you have to be very intentional, and keeping a journal will be very intentional. Always point to try to organize your next day. And one of the things I'm a big believer in is when you start your journal every morning, log in and write down 3 things that you're grateful for. That will change your day. That will help you take a new perspective on the search. Start your day being grateful, because there's enough rejection, enough frustration to drive you crazy. So at least start with a positive attitude. You don't need to add to the rejection. You don't need to do anything that's going to make you feel worse. So start trying to build yourself up. You also, as you move along, you need to be alert for consulting opportunities or interim assignments. Why? Because those can give you something to do, bring in some money, and allow you to fill your resume. I've always suggested people create an LLC, and you can structure these LLCs under the tax code so that you can have a provision for a subchapter S, so that any money you spend on operating this company, or any money you spend on getting any of these assignments, is deductible on your personal income tax. And I'm no accountant, and I may have just butchered the rule, but that's the way we're structured. You want to explore consulting or interim assignments. That's a good way to give you more experience and give you greater perspective. Because you can go into some of those things. They can give you an aggressive agenda. You can go in and make all the changes you've always wanted to make where you've worked, and then leave. You don't stay around long enough for people to get angry at you. So anyway, the theme here is this is a crowded freeway. And that's really what the job market looks like today. So sometimes you must take the road less traveled. You have to look for ways to get introduced to people who are in a position to hire you. And I hope that this is the kind of information that will be helpful. When we're coaching you, we go into this information and a lot more in great detail. We're in the process of unveiling our new packages and new bundles. Unfortunately, they're not all up yet, so be patient. If you have questions, if you're in the market now, we can get started. This just won't be an automatic online experience for you, but we can get started yesterday if you need us to. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow afternoon. We have let's see, we have a program called Office Hours. We hope you'll join us. It's on YouTube. I'm clogging YouTube up here. But it's on YouTube at 4 p.m. Central Time. You go to my webpage, Guiding Your Career, John G. Self, and it's on YouTube. If you are already a member of our organization, Your Career Community, you will get an automatic notification this afternoon when we post that. We're working exclusively right now on YouTube, and so we hope that you will stay with us and help us work through all these changes. But if you become a member, you'll get weekly notifications of all of our live streams, and you will get the daily newsletter delivered at 6:30 in the morning. And we try to provide ideas and information to help you do a better job. It's been great being with you today. Thank you so very much. Remember, Office Hours tomorrow at 4 p.m. We'll be releasing the topic and giving you the LinkedIn information, or the link information this afternoon. So stay tuned for our meeting tomorrow afternoon. If you have any questions, you can reach me at john@johngself.com. John G. Self.